Welcome back to From the Shed End. Welcome back to a brand new video. I hope you're all doing well on this Wednesday afternoon. Now, before we get into the video, as always, please make sure you subscribe. Please make sure you like the video. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments as well. We are going through some turbulent times as Chelsea fans. Of course, we know results haven't gone our way. We haven't won since, I think, away since December 12th now. We're talking almost... Is it almost? I think it's almost 2 months. I feel like today is 2 months. Let's double check. Today is 2 months to the day since our last away win. Now, of course, look, listen. There's a lot we can try and unpick. We can talk about all the results. We can talk about the performances. We can talk about the poor management in terms of what Maresca'S been doing with the team. We can talk about tactics as well. I do want to touch on that again. I want to show you guys again. I'm going to die on this hill. I'm going to die on this hill. I'm going to show you later on what I would do on Friday against Brighton again. Obviously now in the Premier League, we're out the FA Cup. We're out the FA Cup. There's no more domestic trophy. Another year, 7 years since our last domestic trophy. I mean, we are turning into the United and, the United way of doing things, although they did win the FA Cup not too long ago. But say all that to say this, we have got to turn things around on Friday. Now, obviously, I've had a lot of rants on here the last couple of weeks, which I'm not proud of. But I feel like there were rants that were needed. I feel like we needed to have those rants. I feel like we needed to have those discussions, and appreciate everyone that got into the comments and gave their thoughts as well. But I do think we are now in a critical point of this season, because if we don't win on Friday and results go our way over that weekend coming up, I mean, it's just not looking good for us, is it? It's not looking good for us at all. Let's start off with some sort of news for me, because I want to talk about Cole Palmer. I did say we were going to talk about him in one of the next videos, and here we are. A lot of people will say Cole Palmer is our best player. Cole Palmer is the one that we need. Cole Palmer is this, is that. And I get it. I appreciate it. For me, he's one of the best players we've had out of the 35 players that we've signed under this new ownership. I say new ownership. This ownership's been here for nearly 3 years now, but this ownership that we currently have. And Cole Palmer come into this team, and we have to remember the goals that he scored last season. Now, his goal record is not too shabby at all. His assist record is not too shabby at all. But I think there's more he could do. And I feel like that all boils down to the fact that he's playing through the middle of that attack, that front three. And I don't think it works for him. I think we got to see last season so many effective goals that were scored from the right side of the attack, from him driving the ball into the box, from him being in the right place at the right time. And I just feel that playing in that more central, that 10 role, it just doesn't suit him. It doesn't suit Cole Palmer. Even the last 2 goals he scored, if you think back to the goal against Wolves and the goal against Brighton, on Saturday in the FA Cup, they were both wicked deflections. They were almost crosses, not goals. Now, obviously, when he played Brighton a while ago at Stamford Bridge, he scored 4 goals in the first half. He broke the record of goals being scored by an individual player in the first half of a Premier League game. We're all cheering it on and everything else, but I do feel sometimes Cole Palmer, especially when it matters, does go missing in games. And I'm not saying that's because I think he's not good enough to lead us in those big moments, but I just feel that there's a lot of pressure on the young kid's shoulders. He's still quite young. He's only really in his second season as a Premier League player, and that's a lot of pressure to be putting on a player that is potentially still learning on the job. He's still learning, and I think he's snatching at chances on Saturday in the FA Cup. I personally think that he's been, I did read a stat that he would be on, I think he's created like 33 chances this season so far, and hardly registered any assists from those. Now, that is because of the other players around him. That is because of the Nicholas Jacksons or the Pedro Netos or the Madwekis or whoever it is that he's trying to assist, and they're not doing their job. And if they're not doing their job, obviously it's going to make his stats look really poor. And I think as well, there's a element of, are we even able to keep these sort of players at the club if we don't get top 4, if we don't get, win the Conference League, if we're not challenging for domestic trophies season after season? What is to say that Cole Palmer doesn't leave, doesn't want to go to another club that is winning trophies, that is winning domestically? The same for Enzo Fernandez, Moises Caicedo, Marco Correa, almost the players that we heavily rely on week in, week out. What is to say that none of those players will move on to other teams in the summer? The World Cup's coming up. If we don't progress and do well in the Club World Cup, there's potential that we lose the likes of Cole Palmer, who literally everything is going through. If he has a bad day, if Cole Palmer's not playing, he's not on his day, not on his job, we get to see that, and we look around and we think, well, who else is going to get us those? Who's going to deliver us those moments? It's not going to be anyone else. It's not going to be Mark Gu. It's not going to be Christopher Nkunku. It's not going to be Pedro Neto. It's not going to be any of these players. Let me just take this little piece from The Athletic that was reported from Liam Toomey yesterday. Now, it does go on to say, there's a good piece on here, but it does go on to say that Cole Palmer's second season at Chelsea has undoubtedly presented challenges he did not face in his first. His qualities in the final third is no longer a secret or a surprise. More and more opponents are gearing their defensive strategies towards stopping him and man-marking him, as he became a common strategy. He's also being fouled twice as often, 2 out of 1 times per 90 minutes this season, which has gone up from 0.9 per 90 from last season. Despite that, there is nothing in the advanced numbers suggesting that Palmer's production has dipped at all. When you set aside penalties, this is the key, because 9 of his 22 Premier League goals last season came from the spot. He's scoring at almost identical rate per minute to his breakout 23-24 campaign. And his non-penalty expected XG per 90 has also remained remarkably stable around 0.4. So also goes on to say, with 14 games remaining, he's only 2 goals shy of his non-penalty tally from last season. So he's on course to beat it. He helps Palmer continue to be an above average finisher in terms of efficiency, having scored 1.9 more non-penalty goals than expected based on quality of his chances in 23-24. He has also outperformed his 10 non-penalty XG by 1 goal this season. So that's my point. We can't say that he's a bad player. We can't say that he's not playing well, that he's not decent in front of goal. We know that he's got the killer instinct in front of goal. But I think we need to see him do that more. And not just him. There has to be other players around him that are just on the same level, if not better, than Cole Palmer. And we don't have that in Nkunku. We don't have that in Pedro Neto. We don't have that in Jadon Sancho. So that's my worry going forward, that we're heavily reliant on Cole Palmer. I do feel he goes missing. I mean, there's moments where he is outmarked in games, or, he's just not being given the space and time to run at defenders, make that critical pass. He's not getting the opportunity to do that. We got to see that a lot in the game against Brighton. Other games this season as well, we've seen that he's just not been given the space that he needs to personally do what he needs to do. Now, so I think personally, this is what I think we should be doing. I'm looking at this situation now and I'm thinking to myself, Maresca, you're heavily stacked in defenders. You've got so many defenders that you should be and can be using in this squad. Now, I look at this squad and I remember back to Conte when we played the 3-4-3. We had Marcos Alonso, Victor Moses, N'Golo Kante, Matic in the midfield. I think it was David Luiz, maybe Gary Cahill. We had Hazard, we had Costa. We had all these players in this squad, and they were, were really good players, talented players. And if you remember, I think it was after the Arsenal game. I think it was after the Arsenal game at the Emirates where we lost, and Conte changed things in that second half and we looked like a completely different team. We went on to continue to use the 3-4-3. We ended up winning the Premier League at West Brom and the Hawthorns later on that season. But this is what I would do. And Maresca will not do this. So let me just caveat and say that I know he won't do this. This is what I would do. This is our channel. This is our channel, our community channel. We're allowed our thoughts on here, so make sure you drop your thoughts in the comment section below. What would you do? Should Maresca go to a back 5? Should he go to the 3-4-3 formation that was really successful for Conte at Chelsea? Yes, we've got different players, but let me know what you think in the comments. Now, I would stick with this. This is my lineup that I would go with on Friday night. Because some of the things that I noticed on Friday was that we weren't able to be clinical in front of goal. We weren't creating the correct chances. We were struggling to break down Brighton defensively. Now, all of that stems from the fact that we're playing this sort of like just stagnant, static 4-2-3-1 formation. It's very obvious what we're going to do. It's very obvious how we're going to line up. We know that our fullbacks are going to invert into the midfield. We know that we don't like our fullbacks to drive down and overlap on the outside of our attacking options. So I just think we need to start thinking outside the box a little bit. And I think tactically at the moment, we know that there's injuries to certain players going forward. We know that Jackson and Gu potentially going to be out on Friday. We know that Mikhailo Mudryk is still potentially banned based on his waiting for his B sample. We know that the two midfield might be Moises Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez. So I would look at this squad. I would look at this squad and think, right, we've got options on the bench. We've got Sancho. If we play this squad how it is now, we've got Sancho on the bench. We've got Noni Madueke on the bench. We've got Tariq George on the bench. And at right back, we've got potentially Reece James if he's fit enough, or Josh Ashempong. Okay, now it doesn't really give us much options in terms of the centre backs options, but we're playing basically our three fit centre backs in this role, with Marco Correa as our only natural left back as it stands at the moment. Now, what I remember from the Conte formation was a lot of this happening. Now, you've got Neto, you've got Palmer, who I think would be back on that right side, and Kunku almost as the false nine, which I felt like he wasn't on Saturday's game. He was more a traditional number 9, and it didn't work. You know, he didn't really get too much time on the ball. I don't think we really worked the goalkeeper. I think it was one shot on target from us in that game. But if we used Nkunku as the false 9, we allow Correa and Gusto to farm up as the wing backs. Now, there's two options here. It's going to allow a more narrow attacking option between the front three, but gives us the options on the wings with Gusto, Correa driving in. They'll be working on the outside, so they could easily work on the outside of the fullback, right back, left back for Brighton. And let's be honest as well, I think Brighton actually do play 5 at the back. I'm sure they did against us on Saturday as well. So we'll be matching them like for like. It would make them second guess whether their wing backs can get forward as much as they did on Saturday, or whether they have to step back and defend a little bit more. We need to overload their box, in my opinion. Now, one of the good things about this formation for me, and I remember it from the Conte days, is yes, it gives us more threat going forward. We overload the box with opposition threat going into, whether that's a 4-2-3-1 that they're playing or a 4-3-3, but it overloads and you can be intricate with it. You know, you can allow Neto to use the wider areas and maybe use Correa to drive into the box. Same with Cole Palmer and Malo Gusto. That interchangeable interlink between your wing back and your right wing, left wing player is going to be so much crucial, and have these fullbacks or wing backs and your centre backs having to think differently, having to think about who they're going to be marking, and having that overlap, that switching. It's going to be, for me, I can't believe for the life of me, we've got some of the best attacking options going forward in terms of in the team, in terms of Neto, in terms of Palmer, in terms of Nkunku, and I just don't feel like we're utilising them in the best way possible. I feel like this sort of rigid 4-2-3-1, it's very static and just stagnant, and just, you know, the build-up plays so slow. And I think we're trying to play through the middle, trying to be so narrow, and it's so much easier for teams to defend against. When you're so narrow, it's easier for teams to defend against you. So I just look at this, maybe, you know, again, let's think hypothetically. We haven't got the ball at this situation. Again, Enzo Caicedo, drop back, make it deep. Correa, Colwell, Chalobah, Gusto are all here. Now, this is us on the defense. You could even drop Caicedo into there as well to help out with the bodies. You have Enzo here. You would have Nkunku, Palmer, Neto here. Again, when we haven't got the ball, we're set up defensively. I think when we think about the goals that we've conceded this season, how many of them have been mistakes that we've made? How many of them have been stupid defensive switch-offs or stupid defensive errors, schoolboy errors that we call them, that we've made? Now, if we've got enough about us, we win the ball, the turnover, the transition, the counter press. Now you've got the counter press. You've got your players running. You've got Correa, Gusto, and before you know it, Brighton or whoever we're playing on the back foot, they're having to defend. They're having to, because we're overloading the box. Our options now, we could potentially be up, I don't know, a 5v7. I just think when we've got that ball, the transition that we're currently doing with this 4-2-3-1 is so slow. And it's sideways passing, backwards passing, back to the goalkeeper, back to your centre-back. Before you know it, we're back at square one. We haven't even made an attempt at goal. And I think when you play with your wing-backs are going to give you the options on the wider areas. They can cut in and be narrow. You could have Cole Palmer still hugging the touchline and Gusto here. You could still have Neto and have that there like that with Cucurella and Kunku, giving him the license to drive at both of those centre backs. Just drive at them. Stay on top of them. I just for the life of me can't believe, we're continuing to play with what I would say is a centre back partnership that isn't really convincing, isn't really trusting. They don't look like they trust each other. We got to see Tosin and Chalobah on Saturday, and it still didn't feel correct. It still didn't feel right. Like they were both happy to be playing alongside each other. But the same could be said about Chalobah and Colwell. The same could be said about Tosin and Colwell. So I just think, why not give your goalkeeper that little bit more security in front of him? Allow your wider areas in terms of in terms of Malo Gusto or Reece James, whoever it is, and Cucurella to get forward a bit more and help with those attacking phases, because I think that's the bit that we're missing. The piece of the puzzle that we're missing at the moment is there isn't always someone that is supporting Cole Palmer in those attacking threats. We've seen Noni Madueke try and be on the right side. We've seen what Jadon Sancho tried to do on Saturday, and they weren't really effective in the game. And I just think if we can play with the 5 at the back defensively and utilize the wingers as our attackers going forward. I'm just saying it works for Antonio Conte. I'm not saying this is the same team. Obviously, he's got a totally different team, Maresca, to work with, but I just think it gives the other team, the opponents, the opposition, something else to think about. Because I could easily probably pick our Maresca's lineup he's going to go with. It's going to be probably Jurgensen. It'll probably be Gusto. In fact, let's quickly throw it on here. It'll be Gusto. I reckon it'll be more of the same. So I reckon it'll be Cucurella. I reckon he'll go with Tosin and Chalobah again. I reckon he'll go with Gusto. I reckon we'll see Caicedo and Fernandez, not Dewsbury Hall. I think we'll see something like this, and I think we'll see this formation. And I think it'll be Madueke on the right side of it. And that's what we're going to go with, ladies and gentlemen. Now, if we go with that, and that's the lineup that we're going with, me personally, I can tell you already that we potentially lose that game. We're probably going to lose that game against Brighton on Friday, because it just, on Valentine's night as well. I mean, of all the nights to get us to play football, but I think if we lose the game, it'll be because we're so predictable. And I think the fact that we've got Neto here, or even if it's Sancho and Madueke here, I just generally don't think they're going to offer up enough for Nkunku to play as that number 9 on his own. I think we need to change something tactically. And if it doesn't work, then yeah, flick to the 4-2-3-1, change something. But let's change it from the start. Let's try and go off on the front foot. And I think, Maresca tried it. I think it was at the end of the Wolves game. He did go to a back 5, and we looked comfortable. We looked solid when Chalobah came on. So I wouldn't understand why you wouldn't go with that. Giving yourself, you've got some of the best attacking options in the squads, Nkunku, Palmer, Neto, even if you've got to bring on Sancho in the second half. But I think it allows that midfield to be a bit more fluid in the middle. It allows those wing backs as well to be able to progress and go forward. But I just don't see that happening. I really don't see it happening. I think it's unfortunate for us, because I think the problem that we're going to have is that, the likes of Madueke seem to be getting a run out all the time, and they're just not providing enough in that midfield, in that attacking option for us. They're just not doing enough. Sancho as well. I don't know. We'll have to see. But please let me know what you think. Don't forget, we will have a proper preview of the game, a more detailed preview of the match on Friday. That should be out tomorrow. So make sure you tune in for that one. If you're already a regular, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Like this video. Let me know your thoughts. Should we go to a back 5? Should we play our 3 centre backs with the wing backs on Friday night? I think we should. If you disagree, I want to hear your thoughts down below. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that Linktree link, and we will be back very soon with another video. Thank you very much for watching.